So the votes are in, and people wanted me to cover the importance of hand conditioning in karate. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is there's two ways to train the grip. The grip is necessary. What people don't understand in karate, what a lot of people see is they see a lot of kicking and punching, and that's not even a tenth of what goes on in karate. In a traditional system of martial arts like Tang Soo Do, if you look at our self defense, our knife defenses, our gun defenses, and our ilsu sik, our one step fighting, you will see a lot of ripping and tearing and grabbing and choking and ear grabbing and hair pulling and nostril ripping and lip ripping and all sorts of stuff. And the way that you are enabled to do that is with strong hands. And unfortunately, hand strength and hand conditioning is neglected by modern martial artists. A lot of martial arts schools seem to favor more the forms and free fighting as opposed to the actual teaching people how to actually fight. So the first way of hand training that I'm going to get over is there's it's the flexation, the training of the flexation. So with flexation, okay, you're training your hand to open. Okay. Now, why is this important? Why is it important to train your hand to open? Well, because when your hand can open, it can stay firm. When you're attacking the throat, when you're attacking the eye, when you're attacking the nostrils, like to rip the nostrils or things like that. Even if you're just going like this, there's a philtrum here, it's called, and you pull up like that. That can be used to set up another choke to rip the throat out or things of that nature. And I want to be clear before YouTube strikes me for this. I'm not encouraging people to commit acts of violence, okay? But I'm just going over strengthening techniques for karate techniques, okay? And the other way is the traditional grip trainers, okay? So I'm going to get this off my fingers so I can show you how to train with a traditional grip trainer. Now this is 90 pounds. Okay, this is 90 pounds. I have one that goes up to 320, which is stainless steel. However, that one's not as kind on the hands because it has like a little diamond plate, a handle. And I do like it because I like getting the grip, like 320 pound grip is pretty cool to like squeeze that, 40 or 50 times. It really does work the grip good. So the reason you need a good grip is, again, the ripping and the tearing, like ripping at the nose, ripping at the eye, ripping at the lips, ripping at the nostrils, grabbing the hair, pulling the hair, grabbing an ear, grabbing the throat, and this is what people don't understand. When I first started jiu-jitsu training, okay, I never did jiu-jitsu training, so I didn't know what was legal and what was illegal. Now, people did not tell me that it was illegal to rip at the muscles. Now, in karate, we have a lot of ways of attacking the muscles where you can literally, like if you want to, you can separate somebody's bicep from their bone. Like you can separate their bicep from their bone, their forearm from their bone, their calf from their bone. You can actually pull people's muscles off. And it's not as difficult as people think it is. So instead of ripping somebody's muscle off, you can cause a lot of pain by getting in there and twisting and pulling and things like that. So when I first started jiu-jitsu, like the traditional grappling, I didn't know that was illegal until it was brought to my attention by my opponent who didn't do well against me in a jiu-jitsu match because it was illegal for those types of techniques to be used in jiu-jitsu, which I had no idea. And in karate, of course, it's not considered illegal. It's part of our way of grappling, okay? So to go further, we also have, with the grip and the flexation, that's basically like a push-pull day, but you do it together. There's push and pull exercises. Like a pull exercise would be like a bicep curl. A push exercise would be like a push-up, okay? Or a tricep extension, I guess you could say. Now, the thing that you need to take into consideration is you need strong bones if you're hitting somebody square on the skull is a hard object. If you hit them in the chin is a hard object. If you don't have strong bones and strong tendons, you're going to hurt your hand. So, generally speaking, with muscles, if you lift weights, a lot of people when I did karate, they didn't. A lot of my friends that I would weightlift with, they never understood why I would do a lot of deadlifts, a lot of squats, and a lot of barbell overhead presses and things like that. And the reason why is because it covers the whole body and it strengthens all the bones, okay? All the bones of the body. And when you do karate, you need strong bones. Well, how do you harden the bones of your hand? You can't really lift weights because this type of stuff here, this is not registered as an actual weight. It's more like a rubber band. So it's not strengthening the bones. It's not stressing the bones. So how do you stress the bones? The answer is iron palm and makawari, or makawara. Now, makawara is the traditional Okinawan training board that you punch. It's a very hard board with canvas over it that you punch. And you punch it progressively harder and harder and harder, and it conditions the bones in your hand to withstand the force of giving a punch. So this is one way to do it, and you can also do shudo chops and ridge hands and things like that against the makawara. But the other way is iron palm, and iron palm is done with a general. Now I'm going to leave a link to the best resource I know of iron palm training manuals and iron palm training material. I am not necessarily recommending people train iron palm. I train iron palm. I have trained iron palm since I've been in my 20s. I like the results. Now, I switched back to an intermediate bag because that's all I was doing. I didn't need the steel shot. I switched back to the steel shot when I was getting challenged to a karate match because I wanted to make sure that my hands were able to squash somebody's skull. So that's why I started training again with the advanced bag. But the thing is, it's the same idea as the makawara, except the material gets harder. So you go from like a mung bean filled bag to a gravel filled bag to a bag full of little steel balls. And that's what you hit. And of course, you hit that with different techniques like the flat palm, the tiger palm, which is a heel, and then you'd sink the fingertips in and pull the bag back. There's different ways of attacking the bag to strengthen yourself, to strengthen your hand properly to elicit the attack properly. Now, in Tang Sudo, what we're taught what would be called the tiger palm in Kung Fu, but it's the palm that's taught in Defendu, which is the creation of William Fairbairn. My instructor was an ex-Marine hand-to-hand combat instructor, so he liked Defendu, or Combato as it's called in the Marine Corps, or what's actually... So you're hitting with the palm of the hand, and the fingers flick into the eyes, and you rip down. And that's how we were taught to do it. That's not a traditional Tang Sudo technique, or a traditional karate technique even. It's more of a Kung Fu technique, or Gong Fu, or however you want to say it. But the important thing is, it was taught to the U.S. servicemen in World War II, and it has retained usefulness, of course. But the tiger palm is a different type of iron palm training than the traditional Shaolin iron palm. But of course, if you're doing one, there's no harm in doing both. It's just you should be careful. Now, why did I get into all the grip training and all that? Well, I wanted to find a kinder and gentler way to train my hands. Basically because I did a lot of breaking at tournaments. I would break wood and cinder blocks and things, and bricks and things of that nature. A lot of places don't let you do that anymore because of their precious floors. But back in the day, we used to, break stuff like that. So that's why I got into the hand conditioning back when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. A lot of people advise against it, but the way I look at it, because a lot of it, they say, a lot of board breaking, the way they teach board breaking now is if you hit with your fist properly, if you hit with those first two knuckles, you can withstand a lot of force. Like you can punch. Now, I'm not suggesting people do this because I'm pretty sure people are going to screw up and break their hand. But if you hit with the proper body mechanics, you can punch pretty hard stuff and not hurt your hand, okay? However, if you mess up, and you will mess up, I've messed up and actually broke my hand breaking boards. That is what got me into hand conditioning. I broke 6 boards, no spacers, and I went through the boards, but the boards also went through my hand, kind of. They broke my hand. So I had my one knuckle is actually much larger on my right hand than my left hand because of that. So after that, I started taking up, iron palm and traditional karate methods of conditioning because I didn't want that to happen again, and it hasn't. It hasn't, which is a good thing. But that's because of the hand conditioning. It's kind of like weightlifting. If you don't want to get hurt, strength training helps protect your body from getting damaged in athletics, as does stretching. Strength training and stretching help protect your body from getting injured in athletics. So, of course, if you take a martial art, you should be weightlifting and stretching. But the thing is, if you're breaking stuff, whether that stuff is somebody's skull or somebody's rib cage, or if it's boards or bricks or things of that nature, you need to make sure that if you make a mistake, you're not paying for it for the rest of your life. Now, with the finger punches, like the reason I train the extensors so much is a lot of our techniques call for finger punches to the throat, finger punches to the eyes, and things of that nature. He if you don't have strong enough hands, now with me, I'm not breaking boards with my finger. Like my instructor back in the day, he probably still could in his 80s. He would break boards and things like that with a finger punch, with a spear hand it's called sometimes. And I'm not doing that. I don't have any desire to break boards or bricks or anything like that with the tips of my fingers, okay? It's just not something that turns me on. I'll stick to my fists and my chops and my ridge hands and that stuff. I don't use my head to break anything either, because the price that you pay if you mess up is too great. But I do want my hand to be strong enough to deliver a blow that will actually, incapacitate somebody if I hit them in the throat, if I hit them in the rib cage, if I hit them in the face, if I'm, you know what I mean? So for that, you need to train the extensors of the hand, which is better than hitting a makawara, in my opinion, because hitting a makawara with a spear hand, again, you're asking to break your fingers. You're asking to burst your fingers. I've burst the skin on my fingers trying to hit a makawara with a spear hand. It's just not worth the risk of permanently messing up your hand. Hands are important things. If you do any kind of work, hands are important things. Even if you do idiot work, like when I worked at the lumber yard, there's a lot of you need your hands to do your job. Or even if you just, you need your hands. Hands are important things. They're one of the things that separate us from other animals and separate the great apes from other animals, okay? So hands are important. So in my opinion, it's important to take a kinder, gentler method of doing this than the traditional Okinawan methods. Now, furthermore, what you need to understand is what's dit da jiao. Dit da jiao is a Chinese liniment. It's a liniment that's supposed to get the blood flowing and get the bruises to go away, and it does work. I've used it when I've gotten jacked up at karate tournaments or elsewhere, doing extracurricular things that people aren't supposed to do. I've used it to clear up bruises, to heal sprains, things like that. It works. It does work. The problem is it's excessively expensive. So a lot of what I put on my hands when I'm done doing the conditioning, I like to use a high quality lotion that is a deep moisturizing lotion, things like that. And you do have to pay special attention to the hands, the health of the hands. That's one of the reasons my hands actually look as healthy as they do, versus some people that do iron palm, their hands look like leather. It's not necessary to turn your hands into leather by, drenching them in dit da jiao. I don't use dit da jiao. I did it first when I first started iron palm when I was like 18, and I'm like, man, I'm hemorrhaging money in dit da jiao because it's so freaking expensive. And then you buy the herbs and all that, and you can make fresh dit da jiao, or you can make the liniment and the alcohol, and it just becomes a big hassle. I personally don't use dit daljao. Most karate practitioners I know do not use dit daljao when they train their hands on the makawara. But according to Sifu Wing Lam or Shifu Wing Lam, I don't really know how to pronounce it. I don't speak Chinese at all. Korean, I can kind of fake it sometimes. But according to Shifu Wing Lam, the guy whose website I'm giving you a link to, WLE.com, dit daljao is an indispensable part of iron palm training. I don't know if it's because he sells it. I don't know if it's because it really is. I do know that from most resources I've found on the training of iron palm, they do recommend some type of dit daljao. The reason I recommend Master Wing Lam's program is because it uses bags. Okay, some of these processes use these crazy, like you're gonna put your hands into heated sand and all. You don't want to risk messing yourself up. If you're a serious karate practitioner, you do not want to risk destroying the thing that you need to practice karate, your hand. Your hands are necessary to practice karate. You permanently damage your hands, no more karate. Because your hand is what's doing the karate. Well, your mind is what's doing the karate, but the hand is what takes the form of whatever attack you're using to inflict the blow that's going to incapacitate or kill your enemy. Okay, so you can't. That's the whole point of karate. Karate is empty hand. Okay, no weapon. So we don't use weapons. There are weapons, of course, in some of the systems. In Tang Soo Do, being that it comes from a Korean military tradition, we have various weapons. Not many, really, in traditional Tang Soo Do. If I remember, we have other weapons like sais and stuff like that, but that was added later. But in traditional Tang Soo Do, if I remember correctly, we have the bong or bow, which is a long staff. We have the knife, and we have the katana, the Japanese sword. They were the three weapons that I remember. Now, I've trained with other weapons and trained people how to use other weapons because they were added over the years, before my time, of course, to get more people, like traditional kabuto weapons like nunchaku, sais, kamas, these things. These were added. Now, I'm not proficient. I think the only weapon that I would say I'm proficient in, besides the knife and the katana, is the nunchaku, the nunchucks. And that's the only kabuto weapon or Okinawan weapon that I have any type of proficiency in. I never learned the form, the nunchaku form. I do know how to do all the little tricks and that sort of thing. And nunchaku are actually very effective weapons if you're using them properly. Now, of course, you can do the cute spins and all that twirly, whirly crap with them, but used as an actual weapon, solid wooden nunchaku or solid steel nunchaku, I actually don't even know if you can get them anymore in my state. I think the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has outlawed them. I haven't owned a pair in years, but you have to be careful because some states they're illegal in. A lot of martial arts weapons are actually illegal in certain states. I don't remember which ones, but I do know like certain areas, like butterfly knives, which are not an automatic knife that you like twirl open. I used to be hip with that. You're not allowed to have them anymore. They're considered dangerous or illegal. How that's any different than a regular buck knife or something like that, don't ask me. Don't ask me, or one of these knives that you flip open with your thumb. I don't know how that's any different, but whatever, that's the law. So how it works is you have to be careful with if you're, I don't know how this got onto the aspect of kabuto, but if you're, or the topic of kabuto, but if you're buying martial arts weapons, beware that you might not be allowed to have them in your home or in your car, etc., depending on where you live. Anyway, that covers this aspect of this, the grip training, the hand conditioning for the practice of traditional karate.